So this is gonna be a recap of what I'm learning. Alright, I know it's the 5 minute entry. Alright, I know it's the 5 minute breaker structure, but where and how should this 5 minute breaker structure look? That's where I'm at right now. So I basically just been taking every 5 minute breaker structure, no matter if it was at the top of a range, whether it was coming out of consolidation, or everything. So clean 5 minute entries versus choppy entries. So now I just want to take clean 5 minute breaking structures in OTE of a range in some way or form and not out of consolidation. So choppy TJR method stopped out. Alright, so this day was completely choppy action. I think I might have took this 5 minute breaker structure or maybe even this one. I don't even know. But the real thing that was going on here is we're in all this consolidation right here. You don't want to be taking any trades out of this price. So I don't know if we're at this part yet. But so I've came up with, I think, 5 alternate versions of the 5 minute breaker structure. And so this first one is called the schmickel nickel. Now, when you find yourself in a schmickel nickel, it's when you take a 5 minute breaker structure out of maybe consolidation. The main thing is that it's a 5 minute breaker structure out of consolidation. The main thing is that it's a 5 minute breaker structure into the actual OTE of the range. So a prime example of a schmickel nickel, this is just a picture. If we pull the OTE from here to here, this right here is sweeping the OTE of this range. So you're under the impression that this 5 minute breaker structure is the long, but really you're longing into the entry. So that's what a schmickel nickel is. It can be vice versa. You could be shorting into the area where you're supposed to actually be buying. Is when you completely have the markets backwards and you're missing what's actually going on. That's what a schmickel nickel is. And we don't want to find ourselves in a schmickel nickel anymore. So we shouldn't have took this 5 minute break of structure for the first place because it's in consolidation. Then it went up here into OTE. Now I do a 5 minute breaker structure. That's more like the Sniper Scout series model. That's what TJR, Baby Trader. That's what all these young cats are doing is that 5 minute breaker structure. But so what actually would have been the move here was right here. There was a short. It was a 1 minute breaker structure, and then it was like a pullback into a fair value gap in equilibrium, paired with the bearish 1 minute order block. So clean 2022 model. And also, I've been trying to find my edge. Right? Is it the sniper 5 minute breaker structure? Is it that 1 minute market structure shift 2022 model? Now I think that the 2022 model pops up in cases like this. When you see the market just open, it goes straight into an OTE of a range, and then it does a 2022 model just to come down here to sweep liquidity for a sniper entry. Now this was too much consolidation in here for me to take a sniper entry. And the way I enter with the 5 minute breaking structure, pull back to consolidation, and then a 1 minute inverse, I would have took a loss. And I would have took a loss because I took a trade that I shouldn't have even took. Alright? So when there is consolidation like this, and there's a 5 minute breaker structure, if you're really fiending to take it, just enter with the pullback to equilibrium and set your stop here. I wouldn't have got stopped out if I did that. Now that's a 5 minute breaker structure in consolidation. But clean 5 minute breaker structures, like how we're supposed to be looking, should pull back to equilibrium and then want to reverse when it gets to equilibrium. That's the TJR method. TJR adds that pull back to equilibrium and then 1 minute inverse. That's the one thing that he adds on top of the Sniper Scout series. That's different from just a 5 minute pullback and then target your hourly draws. Today could have been a short, but we were best to walk away and took a small loss of 172. So I shouldn't have even took the small loss of 172 or whatever this, that, and the third in my eval. And I could have made a 2022 model, but I don't look for a 2022 model yet. Now that I'm starting to understand the flow, that it's usually in a OTE during like an open move, and now I'm starting to get it, but none of that choppy. Alright, Slick had along but didn't realize it. NQ and SMT, that's why the 5 minute was more in a fair value. but OTE was met and swept under consolidation, which previous case, next days, whatever got out of consolidation swept in reverse, worked but could not be took due to consolidation. So this day was a completely goofy ass day of mine. I checked the news and I had my news on Tuesday and it was actually FOMC Wednesday. So all my trades that I took were past 12. If you know anything, you know that you can trade FOMC. You can really trade commodities in the morning during FOMC, like gold or something. But let's say you want to trade futures, ES, NQ. They're not commodities, I don't think. So I think it's better to just leave the charts alone on FOMC. But this is the things that I overlooked this morning. Was now I could have this more pulled up. This was last week's FOMC. We could just pull that up real quick. So what I was so set on was I was looking for, since I'm like only OTE setups now, it has to be in OTE. I was measuring this range and I was waiting for price to come all the way back down to there. And it actually did do that for NQ. For NQ, it actually did meet OTE right here. But it didn't meet it over here on ES. So I was kind of confused because I was like, I was a little befuddled because I was waiting for the price to come back on ES. What I was overlooking was that the London range was met. So the London range was met OTE on both, and not only was OTE met for the London to New York session, but this low right here, we had a SMT. So if I would have noticed this SMT, I could have took this trade. Now this, or I could have just left it alone because it's still sketchy and it's FOMC. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, why would you take this 5-minute breaker structure out of consolidation and not the other 5-minute breaks structures out of consolidation? Well, it probably is best not to take this one. But this one has a reason for being consolidated. This one is what I call an SMT compression. It's when it makes the entry seem like it's not a move you should take because it's in consolidation. But this has a reason why it didn't leave. Look, NQ came down here and it kind of got out of the consolidation. A little bit of consolidation from here to here. This W of consolidation. But it's not like it's caught up like up here with the price. Like how over here we're basically in this same consolidation over here. We never left it. But we were so much more bullish in ES and we were a little bit less bullish in NQ because we took out this low. We didn't took out this low. The SMT divergence is saying that this is more bullish than this. So this is the asset we want to take for a long. And what did we get? We got a 5-minute breaker structure and then a pullback to equilibrium. And then what do we get? A 1-minute inverse. Now, should I have taken this trade? I should not have overtraded and lost all the other trades I took past 12. All those trades were pointless and they didn't make any sense. I didn't know what the news was for the day. I thought I checked the news. I was on the wrong day. Alright, now should I have, if I was paying attention, I could have taken this. Now we get a 5-minute breaker structure, pull back to equilibrium, then we get a 1-minute inverse right here. So I'd enter long right here, I'd put my stop down there. Now here's the thing though. It's a 5-minute breaker structure out of consolidation. But why is it so consolidated though? It's consolidated because we had an SMT with those 15-minute lows. So that's why it was still up in the range a little bit. Now we could have took this long, I'm pretty sure. Add levels, edit, add. But honestly, we would have got stopped out. See, we would have just got break even. So honestly, I'm glad I didn't take this move. I didn't actually look at the entry. I guess not until now, because I would have thought, oh no. But realistically, I'm looking at this break over this high. Once we close past this fair value gap, That's the real entry. Because it's closing past this fair value gap showing it's reversed. So let me take that back actually. Would this have been worth it now that we're entering at the right part in the price? Alright, boom, there's our break even plus like $1 for commissions. And then 1, 2, will we make it up to that second line at least? Alright, boom. And then what's the institutional number near that FIB projection? Well, we got the 50s down here. Will we have hit that? No, we would have still got stopped out. But yo, that's way too much profit to even want to make that actually. Because that's a 5, 4, 3 plus 1, 2, 3 divided by 144. That's a 4.6. We don't need no 4.6. Yo, 123, 144 times, let's just say 3. At least 432 is a 3 to 1 or something like that. So 432. Let's go down to the next institutional level. So we were right here at the 50s. What if we came down over here to the 20s? 20s have got smacked. 20 still didn't get smacked until the afternoon. And that's my thing, man. Like, this trade really would have only worked if... Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, now this is SMT compression. Now, if there's consolidation, you're better off entering at equilibrium and setting your low under here. Because this is at a consolidation. And I said if I am going to enter on a move and there's consolidation, then I want to do the low down here because that TJR method might not work as well. Now, it worked pretty damn well here, though. I'm not going to lie. But overall, this trade we could have just left alone. Better off have left alone. Now, if we were aiming for these 80s, though, let's see what the ratio would have been right here. See, this trade is just like, I'm trying to do all this, that, and the third. It's like 403 plus 123 divided by 244. That's a 2.1. That's a 2 to 1, alright? 2 to 1 would have been cool. I think that would have been the top of that range. That would have been near the top of this range. And that's the thing, this is the top of the range right here. So we're not going to aim for any higher than there. And that 80 is like pretty close to the top of the range. So yeah, this would have been a cool trade, or we would have got stopped out at break even. It doesn't matter. Regardless, the conditions were not all that. We could see that there's all this compression. So that's why we wouldn't have wanted to really take this. But we got to know why this is still consolidated. This is performing the algorithm, but it's not performing the algorithm in a very clean way. So you could have made money. You could have got out with break even. Or you could have just sat on your hands and just said, you know, I don't want to risk it, because this is a 5-minute break in consolidation. But this has a reason why it's consolidated still. This is SMT compression. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, this day is silly because that was a 5-minute breaker structure into London OT, which set up for 1-minute shorts. This is the same thing that we were talking about right here a couple days ago when it was lands in London OTE for a short. That's why it's called a schmickel nickel. You think you're taking the directional bias, or you think you're taking the direction of the move, but that's not true. So look, we got a 5-minute breaker structure right here. So you're thinking, oh, I'm about to long it up to London highs and Asia highs. That 5-minute breaker structure, for one, is in consolidation. SMT with ES, so look for their shorts. Yo, so we got the SMT right here. This high didn't even take out this high versus this high took out this high. So we got the SMT right here. Wouldn't that make ES the move for the shorts? 5-minute breaker structure was clean after it went below consolidation into a higher time frame supply demand zone. Alright, so this was a true schmickel nickel day. Hold up. Figure out what day that was. Alright. I should have the dates on here. To London OTA. So yeah. So not this day. It's here. It's Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. Alright, so since the SMT was over here, we technically want to take the shorts over there. But so you see what I'm saying? You get this 5-minute breaker structure. You think you're going to take a long, but it lands in OTE of this range. So that's where you're really thrown off, brother. So when you be so confused, like, what the fuck's going on? Well, there is a reason. So you can't just be like, oh, well, this didn't work how I thought it was going to work, how I want it to work. You got to see why we swept this high in OTE of this range. So we were, and then on top of that, we were SMTing right here. So this is a SMT with these highs. So take a short, but you should really take the short over here because this is the one SMTing. So once you get the 1-minute breaker structure, which I used to trade the 2022 model, that has been the main thing I've been trying to learn for the last year. And then I'm starting to understand it now. I was trading the 2022 model gold in the beginning of the year, and I was trading it really not even knowing the hourly draw. I was just, if I saw it, I'd just enter. If it swept a high and I saw the 1-minute market structure shift, I just enter. Right? Really didn't know what I was doing. And I was actually successfully taking a lot of schmickel nickels. I was taking 2022 model schmickel nickels and not sniper schmickel nickels. Meaning I was looking for a 2022 entry towards the actual entry where the 5-minute breaker structure was going to be. Versus now I'm doing a 5-minute breaker structure and accidentally landing where the 2022 model entry is. Because at first I was looking for the sniper and then accidentally stumbling into a 2022. And before that, no, that's what I'm doing now. And before that, I was looking for the 2022 model when I was really taking a short into the OTE for the hourly draw of the day. You know what I'm saying? Just backwards. But so yeah, we could have took this as a short. Boom, got in there. Partials and then profits out down here. Down here somewhere like the 50s maybe. Hit the 50s. No, we don't hit the 50s, but so let's say we would have took this as a short just to look at it real quick. Alright, pull up, fair value gap, sell. We'll put that under this low. Oh, I figured out another word. I'm not crazy, nor am I necessarily weird, but I am introsynatic. Because I know I act like a crazy person and people think I'm crazy. And sometimes I'm just like in the streets, like I probably like seem like I'm a clean dude. You know what I'm saying? Like overall. But like when I pulled up to the symphony this week, I'm like, oh, I already know these motherfuckers. They're like, how this motherfucker get in here? So I was like, I was just acting like I'm a damn fool. I didn't even give a fuck. I was just having fun, entertaining myself. Alright, so that would have been a 1.98 to 1 if we just took it to the fib level. But I'm not really looking for the 2022 model. I'm just allowing myself to understand that is what's going on when I'm getting confused sometimes, is that 5-minute breaker structure into a 2022 model. It's telling me it wants to turn around there, and it's a good spot to turn around because it is an OTE of a range, but does it want to turn around using a 5-minute breaker structure or a 1-minute breaker structure? And so you just got to be open and ready for that. Now here's how the day should have went. So we're taking this 5-minute breaker structure out of consolidation already. Red flag. Really doesn't matter because it's consolidation. See how this 2022, this wasn't consolidated, it just came up here in reverse. Look how we came up here in this 5-minute breaker structure and we took this short. This was not consolidating, this just broke structure, and then you enter right here. It made this full run up in here. And now these are the moves that we want to take. And also down here, this is a little bit of consolidation over here, but you can see that it broke out of this consolidation, made this run down here, and actually made it a run to go sweep. Actually did a liquidity grab is what it was performing. So as they say, it's just a liquidity grab. Alright, so that's a 5-minute breaker structure. Pull back to equilibrium, 1-minute inverse. Now, you can see right here, we did not reach equilibrium, so we would not enter. Then we made it up here, and then we reached equilibrium, so then we would enter. Which index do we enter on? Well, which one do we have an SMT in? Do we have an SMT in either index? So crazy. I really have been changing my personality to change my reality, and I've started to put on like this like nice, like calm, like smart guy like attitude, and like acting like I think my reality's changing. So yeah, let's find out what even. I've been watching the TGR live streams. There's an Indian guy on there. Those guys are crazy, man. Aye. Alright, little old me. Go for SMT. So yeah, the real SMT was neither of them took out this Asia low. They both took out this London low, and they both took out. So there's really no SMT. There's no SMT. So you could take whichever one. Now, let me tell you what you don't want to do. Because that's what I can tell you. So I saw this 1-minute breaker structure, right? Or a 5-minute breaker structure. Weak ass 5-minute breaker structure too. And I saw it, and to be real, did this actually work out? I'm confused. But we didn't get the 5-minute breaker structure over here. So I'm pretty sure I took a long down here and got stopped out. Now let's go in and look at that. Alright, so we get this 5-minute breaker structure. Right. We get the pullback into equilibrium. Hold up, where's the weak ass 5-minute breaker structure? Alright, Alright, we get the weak ass 5-minute breaker structure. Then we get this pull back to equilibrium. And then we get this close over this. I don't even know, because it looks like I could have actually, if I entered off of this being the pullback to equilibrium, it's sweeping that fair value gap, which is like right at 1040, which would be right when that candle closed. 1040, yeah. So that means that this came back, and then I entered off of it closing over this, which means I entered a long right here, which means I got stopped out right here. Pretty sure. Got it this day journaled over here. Whoa, my days lost on this day. On this day. Minus 426. I don't know. I think it's because I missed the first 5-minute breaker structure, and then I took the second loss on my paper account, and then I took a real dub on the 5-minute breaker structure over here longer. So yeah, don't take one sus ass 5-minute breaker structure and then you don't even see ES at least give the same 5-minute breaker structure. Now this move could have been made so if we would have entered off of the pullback down here. But we entered off of the 1-minute breaker structure after some like quick grab. But yeah, the whole move was trash. Look at that 5-minute breaker structure. But really it wasn't. Honestly, if we would have entered down here, it would have been better. Now the cleaner 5-minute breaker structure was right here. You see this? Boom, like this has some like range to it. Pulls down here and then you target the top. Boom. And then the second move that would have been tookenable would have been this one. Because look, see how it runs up here. It doesn't, and then does a 5-minute breaker structure. It doesn't run up here, consolidate all the way over here, like in this whole zone, and then do a 5-minute breaker structure. No, it comes up here, sweeps, makes a lower high, then breaks its low, and then it makes another lower high, enter on the 1-minute inverse, and you just target institutional levels down here. And we would have took this move. This would have been the ideal move because it's an OTE of this range. It's sweeping this consolidation right here. And it has an SMT. See how it didn't sweep London? Look over here. We actually swept London on in Q. So this showing that this index is the heavier asset. So then we won this, then we that. Simple. 5-minute breaker structure. I call this one a fish hook. Now this is the real fish hook. The real fish hook is right here. Because you're like, alright, now I don't think that this move really isn't that clean right here. This move really isn't. This 5-minute breaker structure. But you really only see the data up in here. That doesn't look like too much consolidation. Now the thing is, why is this called a fish hook? Because it seems like a 5-minute breaker structure that's at a random spot. Now, unless you get a bearish 5-minute breaker structure at an all-time high, that's a dunk. That's random. You don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't got a name for that yet. But this is called a fish hook because you're like, well, this is just a regular 5-minute breaker structure in a random spot. There's no range. Look, we're below all of this. It seems like there's no range, but it's called a fish hook because we're in a deep range. Like if you're going fishing and you drop the hook all the way to the bottom of the water, that's where we are. We're all the way in the bottom of the water, so we can't see any data to the left that shows that we're in a range unless we back up into a 4-hour. Then we pull the 4-hour out because at least for ES and NQ, you're never going to be at an all-time low. There's always going to be data to the left. So you pull from this low right here up into this high. You see that this is a range. We're in the OTE and we're sweeping a low in OTE. So we're sweeping this low in OTE. Now let's go back on the 5 minute and see if it makes more sense. And we got those order blocks. Hold up. And we had them order blocks too. But now let's just base off of this data. Now you see we swept that low in a 4-hour OTE. Now it's starting to look like, oh, this was actually a very exceptional spot to want to turn around in, because we're sweeping these lows in OTE of a 4-hour range. Actually, a very high probability. A little bit of consolidation ish right here, just a little bit, but and then actually you can see that see how ES took out this low right here and NASDAQ did not. So since we got NASDAQ now taking out that low, we'll take this as an SMT. We'll take this 1 minute and then we'll take this up to the top. And then boom, because we don't see any SMTs for anything else unless we move to a 4-hour and we didn't sweep that OTE. And we're SMTing on NQ still once again, because that's the only one that I can find any type of SMT on. So look, on the 4-hour we got this OTE. We swept this low that was grabbing at these initial order blocks in the first place, right here. So yeah. So we got order blocks, we got lows being swept, and it's all in OTE of this range. We're at the bottom. OTE just means we've retraced 62 right here, 62 to 79%. If we've retraced 62 to 79% of the range from low to bottom, from low to top, that means that if we've retraced 62%, that means that we're in a low price. That means we could buy all of this anywhere up in here and just take it right back up to the top. That's how these moves are supposed to be entered. And honestly, this looks like it could have been a fire-ass setup long. I mean, realistically, we could have took this bitch up to the top of the range. Be real with you. But, yeah, man, you cannot just take a random 5-minute breaker structure. There has to be some context to it. Now, I see TJR trading, like, at all-time highs looking for a short. Sometimes I'm like, alright, that's how he's going to do it. He has another... he has a more of an understanding of how the markets work. It might be. I feel like it might be a broken way though. I'm not even gonna lie, but I don't know why I feel like that. But I also don't know what he knows. So my understanding could be the broken perspective. But everybody perceives everything differently too. Even so, there's no right or wrong. There's just, can you manage your account really? And are you stacking up? Honestly, you can have a lot of shit backwards. So if you're up, fuck it. Throw this ball at the wall. Dumbass shit. I'm gonna be rich one day. I'm gonna make $100 million. I will have a love of my life. Dumbass. Alright. Alright, so that's, yeah, and this is more 2022 model. So yeah, we could have took the 2022 model short, SMT on ES, so we take it over there. You know what I'm saying? Quick, let's go. Let's go. And then all this, that, and the third, we got mangled up in this. Pretty sure this is everything I just explained. Only move should have been the short PM. Yeah, really that PM short is fire. But these longs down here were not bad, honestly. I think that they were, based off the sweep of the OTE and the 4-hour order block, I think it was a very high probability setup. It's like I just have to sit and wait for the highest probability setups. It's really just a patience thing. This doesn't seem like it's that hard, but it's like, are you going to sit and then are you not going to make a move? That's the only hard part. Yeah, here we're going over the 4-hour range, like everything we just went over. Oh yeah, and then this is like the ideal entry. So yeah, OTE of this range. See this 5 minute breaker structure? We break the 5 minute right here. Boom, we pull back into equilibrium. Boom, short. Take it to the bottom of this range down here. This is a solid ass move. You really can't be confused. Yeah, you really can't be confused with that one, I don't think. Oh yeah, with the SMT you execute in the Nasdaq or in the 500. So I took this move on the Nasdaq because it looked better, but honestly the SMT was over here. So you should have took this in ES. And even though we did this 5 minute break structure and then we took out these highs, kind of violating the 5 minute structure, it was where the SMT was. So it was kind of weird that this took out this high, but it was SMTing. But it's where the SMT was, so we took the short here. It would have worked out, and it actually would have gave a really good risk to reward, even with that awkward violation. See, but I think we actually took that in NQ though. SMT, so why the structure is still close to the fair value, but clearly left consolidated. New York swept high, and so I think I'm saying in this. First long was sketch, consolidation leaves words the real move. This did not break consolidation, but did break last swing low. Kinda did though. I don't know what my notes are saying, but this is about 10 o'clock. Market opens like right about right here, 9:30. We got a bearish 5 minute breaker structure. Not all that. Yeah, this 5 minute breaker structure is kind of in consolidation though. I didn't even post the SMT, so I don't know. But yeah, over here you can see that it ran up here. It did a 5 minute breaker structure under these lows, not much consolidation. And even though it's kind of in the price from here to here, consolidated zone is not too far. Being that we had an SMT divergence, that's why it was still kind of in this range more. That's what my notes are saying. So SMT compression, but cleaner right here, versus that SMT compression from that FOMC day was horrible. And then SMT, but we did meet consolidation. We did have this little rundown, and then a 5 minute breaker structure, and then yeah, this shit popped off. But we at least got an OTE in this little run, you know what I'm saying? Versus we took out London and Asia over here. That's why we took in the SMT because we were more bullish over here. I hope this is picking up the audio. And then this was the A plus setup. We got OTE. We got a 5 minute breaker structure. Pull back to equilibrium. Target the top of the range. This is what you want to see. You want to see a run into a 5 minute breaker structure. You want to see it go some direction, then turn around. That's it. You don't want to just buy as soon as market opens. You want to let the market open, do some liquidity grabs, then do a 5 minute break structure. This should be the easiest shit ever. And once you get it right, boom, alright, a little bit of money, boom, alright, a little bit of money, boom, alright, a little bit of money, alright, boom, alright, a little bit of money, patience, alright, boom, a little bit of money, patience, boom, a little bit of money, patience, boom, a little bit of money, boom, took a loss, alright, shit happens. I've taken a fucking over so many losses. Boom, keep on being patient. Boom, keep on being patient. Set up. Boom, another loss. Boom, fuck. What happened? Oh, we fucked up. Missed something. Alright, boom. Nah, actually. We don't fuck up anymore. not on some easy shit. Maybe one day we will. That's where I feel like TJR is. I feel like he's made so much money and he knows that he's always gonna be in profits. But I feel like he'd be over trading just a little bit. Cause like sometimes he'd be taking trades that I'm like, you taught me how to do this. So like, why did I wait 3 more minutes for the pullback to the 5 minute equilibrium and the 1 minute inverse, and you bought on the 5 minute breaker structure and then got stopped out on the way to equilibrium? That doesn't make any sense. But I trade with TJR now just to make sure that I can see him messing up. It like gives me more reassurance to not watch him. But I still want to see it because he'd be seeing and I'd be like, nah, that's not what it's doing. But then I'd be like, oh, that is what it's doing, and that's why. If we were waiting for market, that first 5 minute breaker structure was wrong. Time too soon before open. So yeah, this was like a pre-market 5 minute breaker structure, I think. And then we got the real 5 minute breaker structure. This one, when it broke this one to the downside, that's when it broke on NQ as well. You see what I'm saying? Then it's a short. Now we have the SMT with the ES. See how New York's taking out the London high, so we would take the short in ES. Either way, we would have got 1, 2, 3 solid entries on this short. So, but just notice how this is all the consolidation. It runs out of the consolidation a little bit. Boom, 930's right here, and then it just breaks structure. This isn't too much consolidation, and there's a SMT. This is a reasonable move, though it's not deep in a range. It is in an OTE up in range. So, and there's an SMT. So, 5 minute break structure is pretty clean. But also could have just not have taken this at all. Now this looks like a 5 minute breaker structure bullish somehow. But you gotta know when we're bearish. I need to be looking at the hourly draw as well. I don't even remember these days, but this is supposed to be quick. This is probably gonna be a long ass video. Alright, the first inverse was false and needed to a high NQ swept. So yeah, if you would have took this 1 minute inverse of this fair value gap, it pulled back to equilibrium, yes, but it never took out a high in equilibrium. So if it's not going to take out this high in equilibrium, it's going to make a high first, and then it's going to internally sweep that. Once we get that internal sweep, once we get this fair value gap inverse, since we got an internal high getting swept, then it's going to drop. So then we got that. So make sure you see the internal high getting swept. Either it has to make the high or it's sweeping one that it made already on the way up out of the range. Just 5 minute breaker structure out of consolidation at math, not in deep one. And 5 minute breaker structure algo, but it's just not clean. That's just a shoot up in the DOL of the day at the moment. Shorts could be took, but then you're calling at top till where the range for it. So yeah, the market just kind of shot up. It was bullish, and then we're at all-time highs. So I'm not really looking to take a short because I'm calling a top at that point. So I think I could have took a short right here in this PM session or something, but it's at an all-time high. It's not in a OTE of a range. So I need that OTE. That's what I can see clearly. Another man might do something else. Another man might do all this, then third. I'm not trying to get lost in all that bullshit. I need to see a 5 minute breaker structure in an OTE. That's what I'm looking for. Could be missing all the money in the world. I don't care. So yeah, this was about recognizing the move bolted and why, but the inverse is in one sweep could have been okay. It was not the set asses as maybe best to. Soon you'll be making 10K a day a trade. Why is mastering patience discernment? So yeah, that's where we're mastering patience and discernment, because yeah, this really wasn't all that of a move. So skip that. And then we got the same thing right here, SMT, copy V if you want to get rid of that watermark right there, yeah. This first long on ES was not bad, even though it got break even. Oh yeah, so this day was actually really confusing for me, because this is the consolidation. We broke from the consolidation into OTE. Then we had this 5 minute inverse, or 5 minute breaker structure. We broke that high, and then we pulled back to equilibrium. So I took a break even on this, and I'm fine with it. Came up here, boom. I thought we were gonna take out London highs. Boom, we actually came out. I got break even. What I didn't realize was, NQ took out London versus SMT'd London. So it SMT'd and actually reversed and stopped me out at break even. If I was really paying attention though, I would have realized that we got a clean 5 minute breaker structure on NQ and a 5 minute inverse / a sketchy 5 minute breaker structure on ES, but we also had an SMT with it. I would have took a short, boom. So, or if the real best move would have been took the long, boom, realize the SMT, get out with whatever profits we can, not even have to deal with break even, and then adapt and take the short. 'Cause that's really what was being presented at the moment. Or how we did, which was just get out at break even and take a small loss, or not even really a loss, walk away for the day. If you were paying attention to the SMT with the NQ breaker structure, you could have been more intentional, conscious of the fact that you can use this unusual behavior also due to open pivot as an SMT, because it changed in direction. You can't just sit here like shit's not off, but how can you use the change in? So like, yeah, I noticed something was strange when we saw ES come down here and take out these lows, and we saw NQ just immediately take out this high. I should have been realizing that the strangeness was telling me this is the SMT divergence, and I can utilize this chaos to my edge. Looking at clean SM sweep plus OTE. So yeah, this pull back into OTE. 5 minute breaker structure. And we got an SMT. We didn't sweep this low on ES, but we swept this low on NQ. Took the long up to the top of the range. It's just clean structure. That's all it is. That's all you're waiting for is clean structure. It's never going to look exactly the same ever, but you have to train yourself to know what it's going to be like. Simple. Be patient. If you can't wait for a clean eye setup and you can't stare at a screen for a little bit, go get some meta glasses. Because oh yeah, something I was just noticing was that this is the 200s, this is the 300s, and this is the 400s. So it shot from the 200s, took out the high that was near the 300s, and then went up to the next 400, and then it retraced a little bit. So that's just something I noticed. It was bottom of this range was 200, the middle of the range was 300, and the top of the range was 400. Then it retraced. Just looking at that, taking that for what it is, just trying to make sense of it. Alright, this is one of those days where we did not pull into equilibrium, and we were at all-time highs, I'm pretty sure. That's cool knowing you don't have to fail. You can just be patient and wait for clean setups. There's no OT, no range met at the all-time highs, so why short? At all-time highs, why short? And then we know that we're just going up. So like, we would have just watched this go up all day, or we would have made it to the lunch, and then we would have said, you know what, let's not do this. We're listening to music, doing our journaling, just breathing, working out, doing yoga. So whatever, we let the day go by still. Now this was a solid OT. Now this is a crazy OT. Look, broke out of this consolidation. Boom, 5 minute breaker structure. Uh, no SMT, but schmickle nickel. Yeah, this was a schmickle nickel for real though, because this is a 5 minute breaker structure. You think you're taking a long, but then it's really up into a short. But this is a good schmickle nickel because you could have caught the longs and then you could have caught the shorts. Schmickle nickel is just a move into a move. So a long into a short or a short into a long. If you actually are aware of what you're doing, then you could get a boom boom. But when you're not aware and you think that you're taking a long just to be stopped out and it's a reversal, that's it when you're in a schmickle nickel. But now that you know what a schmickle nickel is, you can utilize it to your advantage. Already high at all-time high, no retrace. Already high, all-time high, no retrace. Yes, we're already at highs. There's no point. Yeah, there's no point. Come down here, London SMT. Alright, so we took out London in Q, but we did not take out London in ES. This is also in a 5 minute range. And then we got this minute 5 minute breaker structure. You see this up close, and then that's a down close, making this a swing high. So from this low to this high is a 5 minute breaker structure. It's a little sketchy, but location with the SMT, I took this and it worked, and it took to the top of the range. Could have not have took it too. But I'm pretty sure we must have got the 5 minute break on ES2 though, or NQ as well. I'm thinking. One of those longs that feel like random 5 minute bullish breaker structure but are actually real OTE. Yeah, this is a fish hook. You think it's a random 5 minute breaker structure. You're never gonna have a bullish 5 minute breaker structure just in a random location below recent lows and recent highs. It's always gonna be, you just gotta zoom out and realize there is more data. So a fish hook is just a higher time frame OTE. A fish hook is a 4 hour OTE versus like a sniper is like a London, New York OTE, or like a Asia, New York OTE, just like within that day range. But when you get that 5 minute breaker structure and there's not any data relatively close to it, and you got to zoom out, that's a fish hook. So the two type of entries I like are fish hooks or snipers. Snipers are just those clean session OTEs, recent sessions, and then fish hooks are those higher time frame ranges OTE. This 5 minute breaker structure, ES violates 5 minute range low, but we were supposed to long higher time frame SMT, and this violation nation worked before. So we made this run down here. It's kind of consolidated, I'm not even going to lie, but then we got the 5 minute breaker structure. We got the SMT down there, so then let's take the long. Even though this is a violation nation right here. Then we have the real SMT right here, and we swept that. This kind of looks like consolidated mess. I think I could have skipped this day and been fine. Probably best to have just skipped this day, but it did run down here. Let's take out these lows. SMT. I mean, the move was clean though. Seems like a Friday move, but 2.471 earlier fib would have been fine if in funded. Move is kind of consolidated area, but it's a deeper range with the SMT and EQ of range for DLL. So I think this had a little consolidation, but there was SMT, so this is a SMT compression move. That's the only time I would take a consolidated 5 minute breaker structure. If it seems like it's coming out of any consolidation, if there's an SMT involved, because the SMT can cause that compression. Asia SMT, so take the move in ES. This ES, New York took out Asia. New York only took out London over here. Made this kind of run down and then 5-minute breaker structure and then target the top of Asia range. That's fine. Definitely in some consolidation, but SMT compression. So that it's not like all up in this consolidation still, but it is. It made this run down. It's somewhat. This would have been less consolidation if it was down here, but not taking out Asia, because if it took out Asia, then this SMT would be invalidated. But if it just came down just a little bit more, but it's fine because it took out this low, it took out that low. You know what I'm saying? It's in an order block. We filled the gap already. So SMT compression, and then yeah, then we get this step up. Now if we broke this high first, that's a 5-minute breaker structure. But before we broke that high, we made this high relatively equal high. And then we retraced, and then we broke that high. This is what a step up is when it makes the high, retraces, and then breaks the high. That's what a step up is. That's a type of 5-minute breaker structure. We can take step ups. So we can take fish hooks, step ups, and snipers. That's it though. Those are the only setups we could take if it's not a fish hook, sniper. So a fish hook and sniper, those are A+ setups. SMT compression and step ups, those are B+ setups. And anything past that, probably don't want to take. So a schmickel nickel is a 5-minute breaker structure out of consolidation towards the OTE real 5-minute reversal, or it could be a 2022 reversal. So a schmickel nickel is when you take a breaker structure and the draw where it lands is actually the real reversal point. So it's when you long into where you should be shorting, when you short into where you should be longing. That's a schmickel nickel. Sometimes it can work beautifully that way though too. Or you just get stopped out at break even, or you even take a loss and you don't even get to enter in the actual move. And then a step up is a 5-minute breaker structure. It has to make a high, then break it. So what did it do? It made this high first, and then it broke it. That's a step up. And then a skinny schlim. A skinny schlim is the ideal setup. That's just like it makes a run up somewhere. Maybe does a small higher low, then maybe does a small lower high, and that's the vast, or that's the whatever of the whatever. That's all of the consolidation is that high, that higher low, and then that lower high. That's all the consolidation it puts in. Not much. And then a 5-minute breaker structure. So that's a skinny mini when it just kind of makes a run up, sets up for a 5-minute breaker structure, and then you short it. That's a skinny mini. We love skinny minis. And then fish hooks. Liquidity grabs and lower, and you feel like you're getting a bullish 5-minute breaker structure at an all-time low with no context. But you zoom out and you realize you're in a deep 4-hour order block. See, that's what we were talking about earlier. It's just a higher time frame is a fish hook. A sniper is lower time frame. And a skinny mini can be a sniper. A skinny mini can be a fish hook. But a skinny mini is just mainly just the A+ setup. So sniper A+, we got to pull back into OT of this range. We took out these lows here. We took out these lows there. The 5-minute breaker structure right here. Pull back into equilibrium. We take out top. It's not really consolidation. It kind of pulls in here. It kind of runs down here. It sticks its foot out, sweeps all of this imbalance right here, and then it shows that it's ready to turn around after sticking its toes in all of this imbalance. After it sweeps all this imbalance, that 5-minute breaker structure is proper. A little bit of consolidation, but it's not heavy. You can see that this is a clear run down, and we know that we're in a smooth hourly range, probably in a London order block, sweeping both. Deep premium SMT. So right here, this is kind of like a fish hook, but bearish. Boom. See, swept. Now this was an all-time high, see, but this was not an all-time high. Since we have the SMT here, boom, take the short 5-minute breaker structure. Bloop. Clear. Come up here, boom, see even cleaner. 5 minute breaker structure, boom. Now this is why I took this move in NQ. I was confused. I saw that we came back to equilibrium and swept these highs. I didn't see that in ES. What I didn't realize is it was performing an SMT divergence with this high. So this was another SMT high, these lunch highs. So I could have took it over here and it would have been fine still. But regardless, we'll do better next time. And then this is just a bunch of weak act consolidation. We made a range. We probably pulled back into like an hourly order block from London. But yeah, look at all this consolidation, and then we barely broke out, and then we came back down, and it's like we're still in that consolidation. Maybe a short from here down to here, if anything. But really, this is all this consolidation is so much bullshit. It would have maybe worked out. You might have took a loss in between. Someone trying to make it work. I just say too much consolidation, too much bullshit. Leave it alone. Unless you took this first 5 minute break right here, and then you took a 1 minute inverse right here. But I don't even know if I saw that. And that's at 9 o'clock. We don't even start making decisions until 9:30. So New York Sniper. Now this is only the New York range. See, we're in equilibrium, clean 5 minute breaker structure. We are in OTE of this range, and S&T the high. Boom. I mean, pretty solid. Sunday gap filled down. So look, we came in, we filled the weekend gap, Sunday gap, and then we got a 5 minute breaker structure. So I usually try to long into the gap, but this time it was a short because we were in OTE from this range, see, from this high to this low, meaning that this is OTE, all this consolidation right here, probably an order block of some sort, bearish order block. Boom. But yeah, that's my review. It's the 5 minute breaker structure, and you want it to be in OTE, and you don't want it to be with a lot of consolidation. And yeah, that's about it. So pay attention, get better, get a better understanding of the 5 minute breaker structure. Just master that. Don't worry about how TJR trades in a million different ways, how they do this, that, and third. You master the simple shit that you can understand. Don't go learning all this, that, and third. Master the simple ass shit that you know, and master that shit, yeah. Alright?